Thank you so much for staying with us. We really appreciate your time and company. If you woke up with us until now, if you're just joining us, don't worry. You're just in time for the best part of the program. We are in the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And this is a time for us to have that very important conversation for both of us, me and you watching, to understand what is our role in ending GBV and also track how the country has fared when it comes to addressing the gender-based violence cases within. Plus, we'll also be borrowing lessons from what has been done elsewhere. It's a global concern when this issue of gender-based violence. And I have with me a panel that will just be helping me break down some of the key issues that we should focus on to be able to make this world a better and a safer space for not just women, but even men as well. So I'm having this conversation from my far right, and I'm glad to have you. Having a man when we're talking about this issue is usually very important for me. We are hosting this morning Giovanni Grandi from Italia. So he tells me his name is Grandi. He'll tell me the better pronunciation for it. He's the head office, the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation. Thank you so much. We are also having with us Viridiana Wasike, the Director Fund Management at NGAF. Thank you so much for creating time as well.
Good morning.
All right. So I'll begin with you, Viridiana, probably in this season of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. This subject, from where you sit, why is it important for us to talk about it right now?
This subject is very important. Ending gender-based violence is very important. And this season begins from the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls. And the reason as to why it begins there is because most of the pain, most of the violence is meted on the woman. When you look at female genital mutilation is on a woman. When you look at most of the cases that you even see, you find it's the woman who has been cut off her hand. It's mostly, you find that it's the female gender that is actually hurt throughout this process. So the beginning of the 16 days of ending GBV begins with the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls. And as we have this conversation, we are not saying that this conversation is a war between the man and the woman. It's actually because the woman screamed the loudest because she was being hurt the worst. But then the man should also stand up and be able to say, no, I will not do this. So it is on both sides for all of us to stand up and say, we end this violence. The elephant that we're trying to slay is the violence. So however we come together is actually to cut off this violence. And it begins from the family unit. It begins from our homes. It is not very far. It is not what you watch on TV. It is what happens in our homes. And that is why you saw the president stood out and said, safe homes, safe spaces. And he understood the fact that it actually starts within our homes. So it is for us to reset, to correct our ways from the very basis and to actually say no to violence, to either hitting a woman, a man, to actually say no to violence. And indeed, we are also joined by our partners, and especially for us, the Italian Aid, who are coming very strongly and saying, we can join hands, all of us. So this war against gender-based violence is a war where everyone is coming together, collective action. And that is why you see, even today, we have our critical partner here, Italian Aid, who are saying, we will walk the journey with you. We will try and strengthen your systems. We will work with you to ensure that we end gender-based violence. And it ends on the 10th of December, which is the International Day of Human Rights. And that is now the culmination of us understanding what are our rights, what's human rights, and just ensuring that we are able to slay this dragon called violence. Gender-based violence.
All right, and gender rights are actually human rights.
Yes,
I want to understand. Yeah, I want to understand. I know there is a lot that you're doing to support this cause, because it also needs a lot of players to come on board. There is need for information, there is need for resourcing and all that. But before we get there, this is not a Kenyan issue. You are sharing with
absolutely
me.
not.
Yeah, just to also rope you in onto this and get your thoughts on the global concern that is there when it comes to the issue of GBV.
Well, just to give you, I mean, I can talk about my country, just to give you an example and compare it a little bit with Kenya. Starting since the beginning of this year in Italy, we had almost 100 feminicide that have been accomplished. And this is the extreme act of GBV. So you're giving away a life of a human being, of a woman, and the vast majority of these crimes are done by people who are known, very well known by the victims. So you're talking of people, members of the family, or lovers. This is not love. This is an homicide. And if you think of the figures in Kenya, from what I know in terms of data, you're talking about 130. So we're not very far. And there is, as Veridiana was saying, a huge effort that needs to be made, starting with the original nucleus of the society, families. A lot of gender-based violence is perpetrated within the family. So actors needs to be working together in partnerships, and this is where we are, as Development Cooperation, trying to provide the support in addressing the issue, not only financially. By the way, ongoing we have an amount of 1 billion shillings of initiatives on women entrepreneurships and having the women playing a major role into society. But apart from the financial support, you need to have also institutional support in terms of providing technical assistance, supporting the institutions in putting in place whatever is needed in order to address the issue and to handle it and to prevent it.
Prevention is actually very key. We need to prevent, if you ask. That's why we need to start.
Absolutely. And so in the prevention, the awareness, and this is what we hope to get through this discussion today, is to raise the awareness, because the connection between all of the actors is fundamental. We, as Italy, are very proud to be leading, for instance, the development partners group, working group on gender, together with Finland and the State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action. We are basically putting together all the energies of the institutions in Kenya on one side, together with the partners, in order to try to tackle the issue from the roots.
All right, Veridiana, maybe to tell me a bit about some of the actions and programs that have been put in place to address GBV in our country, so that we see whether we are on the right track. What has been done so far?
There has been quite a number of programs that and policies that have been put in place to tackle gender-based violence. Currently, the current program that we are actually running and working towards was actually, especially when we had the deaths of the athletes. because when you look at the athletes, they raise our flag nationally. We literally stop to sing the national anthem. But then again, when one of them is killed in such a manner, it also puts a very global stain on our country. So one of the critical things that we did was actually to really have an engagement with the athletic community, to really begin finding out from a sectorial perspective what is happening within the different sectorial perspective. And even when you remember in the presidential State of the Nation address, while he was making his address, he was very clear on ensuring that we come up with clear programs. And he tasked the deputy president to actually have a multi-sectorial engagement to ensure that the programs that we are developing, the policies that we are having, are responding to the issues that we have, to this issue of gender-based violence. And that is what, especially the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, which is the institution that does a lot on equity and empowerment, we began with the Athletics Kenya community. And we were to be joined by the Athletics Kenya president, but he was called in for a national event. And that clearly shows that our response, our programs are actually advised by the people who are going through the issues that they are facing. And for us, that is very critical. And that is why we are here today. Can you contribute? Can you share your opinions? Can you tell us, maybe within this program, you need to do A, B, C, D. Maybe within this intervention, you need to consider the survivors. Maybe within the safe houses, you need to do this and that. And within that now, we can be able to collectively drive the issue of gender-based violence together. To eliminate gender-based violence in Kenya. Right. At NGAF, we do have and we work very closely with the women representatives, where we do have shelters that we have constructed, and that is also transferred. We work very closely with the county governments. And within that, we look at it in a manner that within these shelters, those can be part and parcel of the safe spaces.
But how are we doing? How are we doing in terms of the numbers of the shelter homes? There was a concern about the shortage. And,
there is very few. Those are some of the areas that we are looking to enhance, to strengthen. We have very few shelters in the country, and that is where our conversation is going, having more shelters and also having more programs that are able to ensure that the shelters are also operational and they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Right. Yeah. Grandi, I don't know, from Italy, what experiences you can share with us that Kenya can borrow when it comes to addressing GBV? What has worked that can sort of like set the pace? Because this program is really critical.
Sure.
Share with me some things that have worked for you that you'd like to recommend. To
be honest, the major thing is, as I was saying before, the change of the mindset. The social aspect is the most crucial one. The way to address it is really to start from the communities. Because then the grassroots organizations are those who are able to effectively have a clear understanding of what are the needs. So you start from there, and the way you address it, we can just give you an example. We've been sustaining since 2019 an initiative which name is Let Not Happen Again. This initiative is run by UN Women, and we have been supporting here, based on what we have experienced elsewhere, the connection between the different actors. We've been training more than 3,000 people, starting with health workers, police officers, judiciary. So the different actors who are in the chain, if you want, from prevention to reaction to the violence. And this, for instance, is one of the things on which we are providing value added based on our experience in trying to have the different pieces working together so that survivors can effectively have the support they need. This is just an example.
All right, all right. You know, if you to look at, I'll borrow from the directive by the president the other day when he directed the Deputy President Kithure Kindiki to formulate that multi-stakeholder team that should report to him within 60 days on what needs to be done to address the issue of gender-based violence. In this program, what sort of partners or players are you going to be working with? Who is crucial when it comes to really addressing GBV? Who should sit on the table? Who are you targeting, or who are you already working with? And what is their relevance, so that we see how do we come up with a holistic solution that will be long-lasting, because we don't want to sit here next year and talk about the same thing the same way.
Who is crucial in this multi-sectorial engagement? First, the voices of the Kenyan people are very crucial in this process. That is why, and this is why the media also comes in. That is why we are carrying a national conversation where we are asking, share your opinion on what legislation should be. Share your opinion on community programs. Share your opinion on how we can be able to push this from the grassroots. And when you go to even www.ngaf.go.ke, you'd find we have a portal where we are telling you to get involved. And this is important for all of us to get involved. I know we have this knack to be able to come and say who was involved. At the very basis, we are asking all of us to get involved. At that table, we will have the judiciary, we will have health providers, community engagement programs, the guys who are actively involved in actually ending GBV, institutions within the gender ministry, the gender sector. This is anti-FGM, GAF, Women Enterprise Fund, and these are all sectorial institutions that are coming together. As you can see, even what we have begun with Athletics Kenya, gender-based violence was affecting them so much. And now we have collected their views. We just started with that small sector to collect their views. We have gone ahead and engaged the National Youth Council. The National Youth Council holds it's the institution for youth. And when you look at femicide, when you look at what is happening now, most of the people who are being killed, most of the women who are being killed are below the age of 35. And that is why the National Youth Council also comes in, becomes a critical player to be able to give feedback on what is happening. On the bigger side, you find that the institutions that are helping us fund these programs are very critical, because we cannot have conversations without the financial muscle to actually be able to ensure that these programs or these suggestions that we have given, that we are able to carry that along. And so that is why we have the donor partners. And partly that is what Giovanni was mentioning about the fact that the Italian aid is leading the gender sector working group donor partners. So that is a very important sector to also have, apart from the government funding. And if you look at the medium-term plan 4, the one that we are working on currently, the government of Kenya set out to set up the Survivors Fund. And that is part of the support we are having to really come up with what regulations, what are the things that we need to see that this Survivors Fund is going to address. And I can confidently say that the Italian aid is actually helping us come up with the particular regulations or the document to be able to structure this fund. We have seen similar funds across the globe. We can take the example for South Africa, which was launched by the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. He launched the GBV Femicide Fund in order to ensure that these issues are not going on in the community. So we can borrow as well from some of the international best case studies, and also within our continent, what have they been doing? And those are the areas that we are looking at to really work around.
Essentially, we are saying you're going to have a fund that is going now to address issues of GBV.
It is set out, NGAF in itself is a fund. I know within the medium-term plan 4, we have set out...
One of the targets is...
one of the targets is to set up the Survivors Fund. And maybe Luigi can jump in.
That's where you come in.
No, it's, as I was saying, the interaction that we're having is not only a financial one. It's also an institutional relationship that we are having with the Kenyan authorities, on which we confront our agendas, basically on trying to provide any support in setting up the agenda from the Kenyan partner, in order to be also measurable with indicators that needs to be clearly defined, so that we can measure the performance of the initiatives that we are doing in a very clear and very transparent way. This is fundamental in terms of credibility in general, but especially if we are talking of themes so sensible like GBV. There's nothing worse if, I mean, the support was not going in the right direction. So the transparency is, in general term, fundamental. In this case, it's even more crucial, I must say. And we're working together with the State Department for Gender exactly on providing them support, even though, I mean, they have a clear, very clear agenda that has been set. So this has been done in the past. Now we are in the phase where we need to provide support from a financial standpoint on one side, and on the other side also provide support in the implementation of it through implementing partners like GAF, like GAF.
And I like the cocktail of that nature of support. You're saying it's not just financial, it goes beyond the money. But let me take you back to the money just a little bit, for people to understand the significance of donor support when it comes to these grassroots initiatives, just sort of so that we can for us to achieve measurable outcomes, there has to be some sort of support. So talk to us about the significance of that donor support.
Well, the starting point is that where does this support come from?
Exactly.
Okay, this support comes from our taxpayers. So the first thing we need to do as a donor, I don't want to call it as a partner to Kenya, because I don't like the donor as a definition. Let's put it this way: is first of all to respond to my taxpayers. To my Italian taxpayers. What am I doing with the Italian taxes that have been allocated in developing this partnership with Kenya? So in order to be able to respond to this, obviously each and any of the initiatives that we are funding in collaboration with our partner Kenya, and can be on agriculture, on support to gender, whatever is the area, but let's talk about this specific area, needs to have agreed among ourselves, partners, Kenya authorities and Italy, which are the goals we want to reach for each initiative, which are the targets, which are the outcomes for each initiative, and how do we measure the way these are met. So in the implementation of each of these initiatives, we have clear indicators measuring what is the outcome that is effectively reached. And the implementing partner is set to meet those targets. And we are monitoring together with the Kenyan authorities, with our partners, the implementation. So there is a monitoring during the life, an evaluation of the impact at the end, and clear reporting to my taxpayers on how efficiently we have been supporting our partnership with Kenya with their contribution. I hope that was clear.
It very well, and the breakdown. How do we have a figure that you've invested in this?
On gender-based violence, we have, as I said, more than R1 billion of ongoing initiatives.
So what's the implementation strategy looking like so that we understand, now after here, where are we going before we get to the outcomes? What is it that is your plan, your game plan on the table?
Now, the implementation strategy that we are looking at, both as National Government Affirmative Action Fund, as a government, and also as actors within the space, is to really have the touch points at the grassroots level. So when we are having these discussions with the partners, the implementation goes to the grassroots itself. For National Government Affirmative Action Fund, we have structures where we have our county coordinators. So therefore, we have county officers within the counties. So we work with our county officers to have the intervention across the country in all the 47 counties. One of the critical implementation that we are looking at is to strengthen the reporting mechanism. And this is by reporting and also where they can go for enhanced access to services for survivors of GBV. And this is by ensuring that we update exactly where they can get these services. So by showcasing where they can access services whenever they require, whenever a survivor requires, either within the police station, within the health institutions, with the shelters, then we have an updated information system where they can actually get that information. Beyond that, we are looking at the root causes of actually gender-based violence. On one hand, could be just a societal aspect, values and principles, but on the other hand, it's financial. So as National Government Affirmative Action Fund, we actually do the social economic transformation. And therefore, we are working to ensure that we have the programs where we are training women and men to actually be self-sustainable. One of the critical elements for us is actually to be a transformative fund for an empowered society. And that empowerment comes also when I have ways and means that I can be able to take care of myself, and that is financial. So we have a whole program around financial empowerment, and within that, we are also enhancing that with psychosocial support, where we have group therapy, group psychosocial therapy, where we have that engagement. After they do the training, we have a very small fund. And why I say a small grant is because this is just to be able to jumpstart your business at a local level. And while you begin jumpstarting your business at a local level, we also have commercial banks partners so that you're able to understand that you're not going to operate in an environment that is just grant related, but you're operating in an environment that is of a commercial nature. Therefore, when we give you that jumpstart kitty or that small grant, we expect you to operate in an environment where you can now go and borrow loans within financial institution. That is why you see we are partnering with banks like Equity, where they have also particular financial programs or financial products, financial products to youth, to women and to small businesses that are beginning, to groups of businesses, because that is important for us as a society to understand that usually when we get this small grant or this small taxpayers' money, we cannot survive on it. We have to now come and operate in this particular space. So when you look at it, it covers almost a 360 angle from the services that you can access, from now prevention, where we are raising awareness and we're calling all of us to actually put a stop to this, then moves into now the programmatic, where we are responding, where we are actually having the programs that enhance the capability of an individual not to be victimized within the home, but also to be financially stable, and beyond that, to now be able to stand on your own 2 feet and run your own business.
I'm keen on you just expounding more on the relationship between the financial empowerment and gender-based violence, you know, because we usually, in trying to respond, we look at it in a very shallow manner. No wonder we've not made progress in addressing GBV, empowering people in the community, making sure that they have, you know, what it takes to speak and stand for themselves. Connect that dot for us to know, even as we look at the causes of GBV, let's understand where it's coming from.
I would like to connect that dot and just give a very simple example. I am here, a woman. I have asked my husband, please buy for me a book for my daughter because she requires it in class. My husband decides, you think I am the one with the money and everything, and decides to kick me because I cannot be able to afford. And these are real scenarios. And it's going to our child. It's not even going to something else. I would give you another example. You come home, you beat me because I have prepared skuma wiki and not meat. It boils down to the money. To the money that is required at the end of the day for me to be self-sustainable, to put that food on the table, to ensure that when you come home as a husband, that I have prepared a proper meal for you, that you will not hit me because I have only prepared skuma wiki. Or I have mixed that skuma wiki with probably sucha.
And I hope you understand what sucha is.
Absolutely. No. I fully understand. And
that is the basis of a lot of the pain that is happening within the family. And you find that just not being able to get out of that, because I cannot also survive out there probably on my own, I will continue taking the beatings because I cannot survive out there on my own, or it will be very difficult for me. In my mind, I'm saying it will be very difficult for me because I have no particular help. And that is why we are saying that the root cause of all this is also the financial aspect. And then when we looked at the athletic community, it was the fact that this woman has actually come across money, a lot of money, in an instant. And therefore, the man is following this woman because they have seen they have a lot of money. And the attack comes from the fact that I am able to even start now saying, we can buy land, or we can put this. That attack comes from the fact that the expanded power base is not yet realized within the home. So you find it at both extremes. The extreme where I'm now getting money and now it's becoming a problem. Why should it become a problem where we can all contribute to a table? Or I am not able to have money, then it's a problem. I'm being hit about that problem. So the financial institutions, and why we are calling them to actually walk this journey, is just the financial literacy, and also making it very clear that you can have money and I can have money, and we can bring it all to the table, and we develop much bigger, much faster. So there is that aspect that is coming in.
If I may just add a couple of points, one example actually. Veridiana was talking about the example of getting home, preparing a meal, and the husband was beating her, etc. I want to get to examples which are concrete. I mean, on initiatives that we are funding, where we have seen communities of women, especially in the ASAL areas, putting their energy together and pertaining to different communities and creating cooperatives in order to produce artifacts, artisan products, and creating the capacity to generate income independently from their husbands or their families. This is one of the examples where, for instance, there is a community and a cooperative called Satubo, which stands for Samburu, Turkana, and Borana, which are communities historically different and especially in the past, who have been fighting each other. And the women decided to stop this fight and put them energies together to start producing beadwork and selling this. Now, this cooperative has switched into a limited company. This limited company became a shareholder of a social enterprise, which is selling these products to the big brands of the fashion industry in Europe.
So the growth...
And we are supporting and funding this initiative, which is followed by an international institution in terms of implementing partner. But just to give you a sense of the fact that the financial, you were saying, but economic, I would prefer to say, empowerment is one of the solutions in order to reduce the dependence, which is one of the causes of violence.
How do you identify the priority areas and because when it comes to addressing GBV, I believe a one-size-fits-all solution cannot work.
No, absolutely not.
So how do you differentiate and what needs to be done in Borana, and
that's exactly the work that needs to be done with the communities. So when we were talking about grassroots level, it's exactly that. It's only through the knowledge of what are the situations within the community that you can find solutions. Another example, we are now in the process, during these days of the 16 days of activism, of funding an initiative for 100 young girls who are having their initial passage in a different way from female FGM, which is a practice which is, even though it's forbidden, it's still, data are telling us that it is still practiced.
It is not data, it's a reality.
Yes.
Okay, but I can always talk about data. But yes, it is a reality. So, and this is, for instance, an initiative that one of the NGOs we are funding is bringing along these days, and they have discussed with the communities, and especially having the men on board, the elders of those communities on board, in order to find a way where you can match tradition but get into modernity. Okay? It's another example. In one case, you have economic empowerment. In the other case, you are giving away, a practice, or trying to give away a practice where you are keeping tradition in this passage, which has a relevance, at community level and socially, because it is a passage, but it doesn't need to affect physically the person.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
That's true. As we wind up, I just want to understand the way forward now. Is it ending within these 16 days of activism, or what is lined up?
The way forward, it's not ending. The fight against gender-based violence is not ending. Actually, for Kenya now, we are getting to the place where we really now need to all come together and fight this vice called violence. So on the 10th of December, which is the culmination of the 16 days of activism, what we are looking to do as National Government Affirmative Action Fund is begin passing the resolution or outcomes from the different sectorial groups to our senior government officials. And this is especially to the CS for sports, because this came from especially the athletic community and the youth, and surprisingly, not surprisingly, they're in the same ministry. So this is the Ministry of Youth, Youth Affairs, the Arts and Sports. So they're the first passing on of the baton that will happen. But within that as well, it's now looking at those resolutions and then passing that to the DP's office, who is ensuring that there is that multi-sectorial group that is discussing this. And within what the president has tasked the DP and the institutions around the gender ministry to ensure that within 6 months, we have very clear affirmative action that will bring transformative change in this particular, in ending GBV. In addition to that, we are running programs as institutions and within the Ministry of Gender and the State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action. We are looking at the different policies and laws that are around GBV and what needs to be done. And that also calls on our legislators to be able to ensure that if it's the formation of these laws and the actors in these laws, to be able to ensure that there is action being done around the same. For National Government Affirmative Action Fund, our focus still remains to ensure that we run the programs around ending GBV, enhancing access to services for survivors of gender-based violence, one through the building of shelters, but number two, through social economic transformation, where we really do a lot on the financial empowerment, and that is one of the critical areas that we are looking at as an institution to ensure that our community, we are all financially empowered. Apart from that, really being right at the center of ensuring that, as the government has set out a target to ensure we have a survivors fund, that we are all rallying together with our little inputs and being able to ensure that we have that. And finally, on male engagement, it is for all of us to rise up. It is not the woman alone. And there's always this saying, a man can speak to a man and they hear each other. And a woman can speak to a woman and they hear each other. It is very difficult for me to go and tell a man, stand up for me. But it's easier for a man to go and tell the other man, let's stop this, let's stand up and ensure we end this. So that is what we are saying. Men, stand up and speak to each other, encourage each other to end violence and hold the women as we go along.
All right,
I'm standing up.
Oh, he for she, yes.
Probably also you can tell us as we close what success would look like from you as a partner in this. What at the end of it, what success would look like for you?
You were saying before, let's hope that next year we're not going to be here, etc., etc. Talking about the same things. I can tell you we will, because it is important that we will continue to talk about these things. The important thing is that we will talk about it, measuring the progresses that have been made. But the level of attention on this theme should not be lowered. So next year, I hope that you will be continuing to have this type of awareness at the national level, because it is crucial. It is fundamental. We were talking about men talking to a man. I can tell you as a man, this is exactly what I would like to do through this message today, is let's stop these practices.
Gender-based violence. Thank you so much for ending it on such a high note and also suggesting that let's talk about it, but let's have a progressive conversation that shows growth, that shows the steps we have taken to address the issues of GBV. Let's not talk about the same things the same way and be in the same state. Let's move on. And this will only happen if we do it and get it right. And that's what we have been talking about, how to get it right when it comes to addressing matters gender-based violence. I've been having this conversation from my far right, Giovanni Grandi, head office, Italian Agency for Development Corporation. Also with us this morning was Viridiana Wasike, Director Fund Management at Ngafa. Asante sana. Thank you so much for creating time. That's how we end it right here on Daybreak. We really appreciate your time and company. My name is Safina Chengoma. Have a lovely day ahead.